Good morning, Rose Smith from absolutesoulsecrets.com. Good evening or good afternoon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm here today to do the Australian election predictions because tomorrow, Saturday, Australia is having a big election, and it will it will result in a change of government. So it's a big deal to us here down under. So I started predicting election results in December last year, and mostly they've stayed pretty well the same. If you want to check, you can go to my 2019 predictions video, and there are some predictions in there. I have had, since I've had visions, different visions, but they all suggest the same thing. So I've written them all down so I don't forget. So let's get into it and find out what we can actually see, what's going to happen. Now, firstly, I must say it's going to be an extremely tight election tomorrow here in Australia. We may not know who's going to be the new party in power tomorrow because it'll be so tight, the counting, it's going to come down to, individual votes in some seats. So it may not be until next week that we actually know. Okay, that's the first point. Second point, what I need to say is I've had a number of visions about Scott Morrison. We call him ScoMo in Australia. And first one I had in December was like a tunnel. He was walking through a dark tunnel and there was doors on either side, which were like opportunities. But he was actually walking out of the dark and into the light. And these doors were like different opportunities, different jobs that he could take, he was being offered. So he will be leaving politics soon after the election. I don't have a date, but it's like a great weight is lifted off his shoulders. He's not enjoying his job as Prime Minister at the moment. It's an absolute poo fight, for want of a better word. He will be very much relieved to get this election over and done with tomorrow and, to move on his way. So he's already got some things lined up. He can pick and choose what he wants to do. I get the sense of overseas connections, so he could move overseas for a job. Sorry, I've still got the flu. I got this Queensland flu. It's just terrible. Okay, so now another vision I just had of him about a week or two ago was there was like a ladder, and normally when I see a ladder, when I read for people, I know it's like success, the ladder to success. He was climbing this ladder and the whole thing toppled over backwards, so he's falling off the ladder to success. Now, the opposition leader, the Labor Party, is in opposition in Australia. This guy, his name's Bill Shorten. He's not very popular. He's never been popular, but he's been in politics a long time. He's very, very experienced, but there's just something about him that people don't like. But he will be our next Prime Minister. Now, I've had a number of visions about him, and the last one was somebody handed him a quarter of a glass of champagne. Now, champagne, is all about celebrations and enjoying yourself, and there's something to celebrate. But it was just that much champagne. So I feel like he's going to win, but he's only going to win by that much. So it'll be a very tight and close election, and he'll just scrape through to govern Australia. Okay, so some individual seats. I had to do some radio interviews for the ABC radio during the week, which is always great going live when you got the flu. And coughing on radio, it's not my number one thing that I want to do, but that's how it goes, eh? Okay, so one person they asked me about is a lady down there in Tasmania. Her name's Justine Key. Now, I had a very strong vision about Justine Key, of this dark-haired woman, because I'm in Queensland, that's like thousands of miles from Tasmania. So I don't know anything about Tasmanian politics, but it's an Australian state, obviously. But this lady with dark hair, And this guy in a suit came up to her and he slapped her in the mouth. And I was just like appalled. I thought that's pretty bad. And then she had this like a riding crop, like from a horse. And she just turned around and she slapped him in the mouth. Then she'd come up and she punched him and she delivered a knockout punch. So I don't even know what party she is. I'm guessing she's Labor, but I don't know. And she's going to retain her seat or to continue on in politics. The guy in the suit is finished. So another thing I saw with her was like this little sort of dragonfly creature come up and whisper in her ear, and this creature was telling her secrets about the guy in the suit. So it's a very dirty competition down there in Tasmania, but she wins. Here in Queensland, there's a seat called Herbert, which is around Townsville, which is kind of halfway up Queensland. And there's a woman called Kathy O'Toole. I've written something down here, but I can't even. Oh, yes. She has that seat. She has a margin of 1.07%, which is just like wafer thin. She's going to continue on. She will win again. I think she's Labor as well. In Australia, our Labor Party is like the American Democrats. In here, our Liberal Party is like your Republican Party. But even by our standards, we call them liberals. They're not that liberal, but they're still more socialist than the American Republican Party, okay? So Americans would call our Liberal Party, our Republican Party, very socialist, but not in our minds, they're not. Okay, so there's another party here called One Nation Party, which is run by a woman called Pauline Hanson. And there's been a lot in the news lately about her and her party. She's been, two of the guys in her party went over there to the US to do deals with the NRA, to try and get $20 million, $10 to $20 million of gun money to prop them up at this election. And it was a sting by a journalist, an Al Jazeera journalist, and they got caught. And he had the whole film and everything. And so that was really damning. That happened about 3 weeks ago. It's really, really going to hurt them, this election. And on the 21st of April, I had Pauline Hanson in my face for about 4 days. And she was there all the time. Every time I closed my eyes, it's Pauline. And she was screaming and ranting and raving. And she was so upset, I couldn't even understand the words that she was saying. And I'm saying, what is it? What is it? And she's just screaming and just beside herself. Anyway, on the 24th of April, because I was getting a bit fed up with it because, I like to be peaceful. But, yeah, she was just going on all the time, 10 to the dozen. She would not shut up, this woman. And anyway, so on the 24th of April, I put it on Facebook because I said, I'm fed up with this. So I made a Facebook post, and if you want to look my Facebook page up, it's rosesmith.absolutesoulsecrets on Facebook. Anyway, about the 27th, all this big thing about the NRA came out, and at the same time, she got bitten on the face by a tick, and I knew straight away this is the parasitic men that she surrounds herself with. And this guy called Steve Dixon was one of them. And he's married, and he was really going on about, they went to a strip club. I know some men go to strip clubs, but, the way he was talking was disgusting. And he's running for the Senate in Australia. I just thought that was very appalling behaviour. Anyway, so he's resigned. So she hasn't got a representative in that seat now because he's resigned. But she had this tick bite on her face at the same time. And I really believe that was spirit telling her that she is attracting parasites into her life and into her party. And I kept seeing the number 1 around her. Now, I know it's called One Nation, but it doesn't mean that. So the number one, I think, could be one seat, or it could also be, Pauline, go it alone. You be number one, Pauline, because the people she associates with are just dragging her down. I think in her heart of hearts she does care about Australia and the people here, but she just has a bunch of losers around her, honestly. Yeah, they're just shockers. Okay, so she'll be lucky if she gets 1 or 2 Senate seats, and she's still very upset about the whole thing. Now, there's this other guy called Clive Palmer, and he's a multi-millionaire mining magnate, but he's got a very checkered past. And to give you an example, up there in Townsville, again, halfway up Queensland, Queensland's a really big state. It's like Texas, like huge. And anyway, had mines up there, and had a nickel mine, and he went broke and he never paid. It happened 3 years ago. He never paid his workers out. So he owes millions of dollars everywhere. And here he is, he's running for Parliament. He's got a representative, 151 representatives, one for every seat in this election. And he's also running 22 candidates for the Australian Senate as well. And 2 days ago, we find out he's living it up in Fiji. Now, can you believe this? Who goes to Fiji for a holiday when the election's tomorrow? I mean, I can't believe it. How lazy. Go and have a holiday while all your staff are working really hard to try and get some traction in the election. Okay, that's just my opinion, okay? That's not Spirit talking, that's me talking. As far as Spirit, what I saw in Spirit, he wasn't happy. He was very disappointed, and he didn't do as well as he thought. And in Spirit, I could see him, and he's talking to all these people around him, and he's giving all these justifications and all these excuses why his party, the United Australia Party, didn't do better. So it doesn't do very good. So these two minor parties, Australia United and Pauline Hanson, it's One Nation Party, they won't be doing very good. Around him, I also get, around Clive, I also get the number 3 and the number 7. Now, 7 is about sacrifice. So he's made a big deal about how much money he spent on advertising for this election. And I've actually disabled all political ads on my YouTube channel because I didn't want his ads on my channel. So you won't get any election type ads, which is, he's been spending, he said over $60 million, which is a lot of money to spend on advertising in a country like Australia with only 25 million people in the population, okay? And so he spent all this money. He thinks he can just throw the money out and people will vote for him. Just crazy. And then go on holiday in Fiji. I want to go to Fiji, but I'm too busy. I actually have to work, but, you know, that's just crazy thinking. Anyway, the numbers 3 and the number 7, big sacrifice around him. So that's the money part of it, but there might be personal sacrifice as well. 3 is like 3 people, but there's a fight or there's an argument or a disagreement. So there's communications going on between these 3 people. It could be him and his wife and somebody else helping him, or 3 top members of the party, but there's a great danger of a split in the party, in the United Australia Party. Okay, next person. Ross Hart in Tasmania. The reason I got so much on Tasmania was because I think it was yesterday or the day before, I did a radio interview for ABC Radio down there, and so they asked me all these questions. Ross Hart in Tasmania, I think he's a seat of Bass, I'm not sure. Bass, yeah, I think so. Anyway, I saw a piece of wood and he's clawing on this wood, and he just manages to hold on. So he'll be in. For Tasmania, I see the colour red, which indicates Labor, and the number 2. So they asked me, this ABC Radio, they asked me about 3 seats. And so I would say that Labor, because red is the colour of Labor, Labor will take 2 of those seats. So Justine Key and Ross Hart. Okay. Now, there's this other guy here in Australia down in Sydney, and his name's Tony Abbott, and he holds the seat of Warringah, which is a very nice area just north of Sydney. And sorry, what I saw for him was a dam breaking and flooding in the streets. Emotion, great emotion everywhere. He is going to lose his seat, and he can't believe it. He's in absolute shock that he's going to lose his seat. Now, Karen Andrews, the seat of McPherson in Queensland, she wins her seat, but only by a little bit. So this is regarded as a safe Liberal seat. This is my local area. That's why I'm interested in it. And she's going to be returned, but with a reduced margin. There's another guy called Peter Dutton. Look, that's really touch and go. I can't say either way. But what I did hear is that the Liberal right is dead. So what happened a few months ago, we had a Prime Minister, and this Liberal right, they decided to bring him down, and they did bring him down. But there was about 5 men behind that coup. They'll be finished with. And Tony Abbott was one of them. Peter Dutton's another one. So I don't know whether he'll keep his seat or not, but I did hear the Liberal right is dead. And lastly, there's a lady down there, Dr. Karen Phelps, and she now has the seat of Wentworth after they trounced the previous Prime Minister. He actually quit. And this independent called Karen Phelps, she won. And now what I saw with her is multiple times I saw her with a great cross, and she was carrying it in front of her. She was carrying it in front of her, and it's like she's making a great sacrifice for Australia. So that indicates she could actually win. I didn't, get that beyond a shadow of a doubt. So if I just shuffle some cards up, Karen Phelps, and the seat of Wentworth, and see what the energy is, we come up with the King of Cups. So King of Cups, emotional, in control of your emotions. It's a very favourable card. It's a good omen. So she could win. She could retain that. Liberal Party are hoping that she won't, because she only has it by like 2 or 3% margin or something, 2% margin. But I think she could win that. All right, that's it for now. They're my predictions for tomorrow. Hopefully we'll find out sooner rather than later what's going to happen, but I do suspect we'll be waiting until next week. All right, have a lovely week, and I hope your candidate gets up and that you're happy with the results of the Australian election. Thank you, and bye for now.